Good evening and welcome to our St. Anselm College Family Orientation. This evening is our fifth and final session of the series for Family Orientation. This session is focused on campus life, the importance of involvement, safety, and our goals and expectations for your student. All of the sessions are designed to help families support their new student through the transition to the college. I am Dr. Carlia Burnell-Joyner. I am the Associate Dean of Students for Engagement and Success. I will be your moderator this evening. This session will be recorded and recordings will be available within 72 hours of the session on the college website under the new student orientation page. We encourage you to use the Q&A feature to submit any questions you may have. We will try to get to as many questions as possible during this time. If you have individual questions, we encourage you to reach out following these sessions via email to emails that will be shared during the webinar. This evening, your panelists are Dr. Alicia Finn, the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Mr. Andrewlitz, the Associate Dean for Community Standards, and Mr. Rob Brown, the Director of Campus Safety and Security. One last piece of information, the college is planning to open to historically what we've known normal as possible. So please encourage your student throughout the summer to check their St. Anselm College email frequently, as their college email address is the official and primary mode of communication the college will use with students. Without further delay, I now invite Dr. Finn to begin the presentation.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name is Alicia Finn, and I'm delighted to have you with us today. Just to start off, I'll talk a little bit about myself and who I am, just so you have a sense of it. I've been here 16 years. I'm a native New Yorker. I no longer walk, talk, or drink coffee. I've been around different parts of the country, and I've spent a good number of years here in New Hampshire. I'm a Mets fan. I'm not an alum, but I certainly do love this place. And I've been told by other alums that you'll meet later on this that, yes, I bleed blue like they do. I've been a psychologist, a director of a counseling center, a dean of students, a vice president for student affairs in another place, an acting president, and now here as vice president and dean of students. I have to say in all these, students were central. Plainly put, I love working with students, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy getting to know your sons and daughters when they come in the fall. At this point, I want to toss it over to Andrewlitz, who is our Associate Dean of Students, and have him introduce himself as one of the true blue alums.
Thank you, Alicia. Yes, my name is Andrew Litz. I'm the Associate Dean of Students for Community Standards. I'm also the Title IX coordinator for the college. Many years ago, I was a student here at St. Anselm College. For any of you alum out there, I am a member of the class of 1978. You can do the math. I hail from New Jersey. I do drink coffee. I cross the street, and I am a diehard Yankee fan. Go ahead and boo me. We're having a bad year. So, but it's not the All-Star break. And as many baseball fans know, you can come back and win it all 14 and a half games back late August. Anyway, I get often asked, how did you get to St. Anselm from New Jersey? For me, I was playing basketball in high school, a recruited athlete. I happened to go to a similar school up in Vermont, no names mentioned. And on the way home, my high school coach said, hey, my brother-in-law just got the job at St. Anselm as the athletic director and basketball coach. You should stop by and take a look at it. So with that, my mom and I drove from Vermont to New Hampshire. And on a Saturday afternoon, in looking at the school, we ran into one of the monks, Father Jude Gray, God rest his soul. Took the entire afternoon and gave my mom and I a personal tour of the school. And at the end of the day, and by the way, he was from New Jersey as well. which is probably why he took the time to give us a tour. But at the end of the day, as we drove off campus, my mom leaned over and said, "Nice choice you made. You'll be going to school here at St. Anselm." And the rest is history, as they say. I've been here 35 plus years and have loved every moment of it. And that would be one of my first pieces of advice. Take the opportunity to get to know as many of the monks as you can. They are the heart and soul of St. Anselm, and they've meant an awful lot to me. Also, if you happen to see me on campus, not in this role, I serve as the public address announcer for all home football games and for home basketball games as well. So I'm actively engaged in our community and happy to talk about any of it. But I will pass the mic at this point to Rob Brown, I think, who also is an alum of St. Anselm.
Thank you, Drew. Hopefully there's some Red Sox fans out there because we have something to cheer about this year as well. And boo to the Yankees. Sorry, Drew. Again, my name is Rob Brown. I am the Director of Campus Safety and Security. I've been here all of but a year and a half. Very eventful since I've stepped onto campus. But it wasn't my first time on campus. As I mentioned, I've really been here since I was 18 years old. I stepped onto campus in the early 90s as a prospective student and fell in love with the college and graduated from here in 1995. I was married on campus to my wife, and we've raised 2 children in the community. Right from St. Anselm, I was hired by the Goffstown Police Department, which you'll hear later is where St. Anselm's jurisdiction resides. And I spent my entire 24-year career in the Goffstown Police Department, the last 6 years as the chief of police there. And I really only had applied for 2 jobs in my life when I got out of St. Anselm College. It was to the Goffstown Police Department. And then again, when I was ready to retire, I applied here for this job. So I'm thankful to be back, and I'm really looking forward to understanding what my job is under normal circumstances, because it's been anything but that since I've been here. But hopefully we can answer some questions for you folks tonight.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If we can advance to the next slide. And I will ask Dean Finn, if you can start us off by explaining the structure of the Dean of Students office and the support your division provides a student. Perhaps also describe the roles within Student Affairs and the Dean of Students office.
Certainly, happy to do so. Student Affairs, you hear a lot about academic affairs. Student Affairs is a division that's kind of a counterpart, but actually it's a buttress to the academic program here on the college. We collaborate with the academic mission of the college. And our purpose, though, is to really design, deliver, and support our students in their outside classroom experiences. We provide learning experiences outside the classroom, and they can range from being in actual programs to our mentorship of them, to helping them develop and operate organizations. One-on-one teachable moments. We have the incredible opportunity to listen to your sons and daughters when there are joys, when there are challenges, when there are difficulties, and when there's the light bulb and they get it and they find their way through the college experience as we stand by, mentoring and guiding them. We do this to promote individual student growth, and we want to facilitate their engagement in the community. We empower students for leadership, not simply by title, but by the way they live. And we encourage them in the development of some life skills that will help them be successful well beyond their time here at the college. We're committed to the support of their welfare and the development of the most valuable part of our college, your sons and daughters. And we do that in the context of developing a Christian community of respect, where each individual is prized, no matter where they are from, who they are, what anything else they might be interested in, all matter here at the college. Our Student Affairs Division is led just in structure. There's a vice president who at the same time is the dean of students, which is why sometimes you'll hear some students call me Dean Finn and other people call me Dr. Finn, because I kind of acquired both over time. It's comprised too of 4 assistant or associate deans who collectively, we all support a campus ministry, our campus safety and security, and you've just met Rob, the Dana Center for the Performing Arts, Health Services, the Intercultural Center, Residential Life and Education Office, Student Conduct Office, the Sophomore Experience and Transitional Programming for Student Success, the Harbor, and then the Student Engagement and Leadership Office. There's a wide constellation of what comes into the bailiwick of student affairs. We also have multiple student initiatives that we're really very proud of and that we work hard to deliver to students. And one of those is the Collaborative for Student Leadership, which is really where they learn not only leadership skills, but to develop the soft skills that so many employers seek today. And those skills that they will utilize both in their own family settings as well as the community. We offer Anselmian service trips, pre-orientation programs. That includes transitions, which you're getting information about now out of the Intercultural Center, as well as A360, which is a program to ground students in the traditions of the college and also prepare them for some of the classes they'll begin. We also have a huge community program and event in Relay for Life, where over 900 people come together on a Friday night to support each other and to support the cause. And then there's a myriad of other programs and events and retreats and conferences and just one-on-ones with students as they develop and grow. One critical vehicle, though, that we utilize is something that's based on a monastic principle called Simpecte. It's Latin for do so that the receiver does not know. And that's a particular support mechanism we have. And I want to toss that over to Dr. Joyner, who will describe what we call as our SupportNet team. Dr. Joyner.
Thank you, Alicia. SupportNet is a group of administrators who gather together to share with each other concerns of students that might be struggling and how we might be able to outreach to them, whether we have relationships, who might have a relationship and who might be the best outreach to the student to help them during their transition. Or if they're an upper class student, you know, help them through whatever it is that they might be struggling with and how to get them support that they might need. So this group meets weekly and we become aware of students who might need support it could be through faculty, it could be through friends, it could be through our own offices. And it's just a matter of us getting together to provide that extra support for students who are struggling or who might be encountering a hard time. An example of that may be a student who may have lost a grandparent. Just bringing that to a forefront to let folks know this student might be having a hard time. It might even be for a faculty member reaching out to one of the members on SupportNet to say, I haven't seen this student in a couple of classes. Can someone outreach or to know what might be going on and if this student is okay. So it's another way for our college and our area to really be able to support students and guide them through any difficulties they may be having.
I think, Carly, I would add to that too, though, the important part of this is we don't advertise it widely. So parents out there and family members, please hold that. We don't want students to think they're on some sort of list, but rather we quietly find a way to connect with them because we don't want them to feel like we're watching or that they're living in a fishbowl, but rather it is purely for the sake of support and gentle support to get them through whatever it is to the other side and growth.
Okay, good. We could go to the next slide. I know this program is open to all family members, but particularly we want to talk to mom and dad. Over the course of this summer, it'll be important that you begin to have a conversation with your son or daughter about their impending college experience. We'd like to assist you with the conversation by sharing with you some of our experiences having worked with students for many years. Alicia.
Thank you. You know, you see there one of the key and opening phrases. It's a Benedictine phrase that we use here a lot. And it is, listen carefully. And the highlighted and bolded part is what we condense. Listen carefully with the ear of your heart. You know, having worked with students over any number of years here, I've learned about listening with the ear of your heart. Listening for you to listen to your son and daughter and some of what they will encounter, some of what they will question, some of the snags occasionally that they'll hit, some of the things they'll wonder about, all of that. And what's your role if they have a difficulty or a problem? Our answer is to listen. You know, the natural tendency of any parent is to react and to want to take on the issue so that you can fix it. Well, your son and daughter is an adult now, and a legal adult, and they are learning to assume fully, more fully, the role of an adult. So I want to encourage you to allow your sons and daughters to handle their own affairs, to handle their own issues. Now, you maybe want to jump in, but I guarantee you want them to get their problem-solving skills down pat. Just keep in the back of your mind, someday they're going to choose your nursing home. So you want them to know how to maneuver when there are issues today. What if they don't know is a natural question you might have. Well, you can certainly have them call our office, call any of the offices, the resources that I listed a little bit earlier, and we'll help guide your son and daughter through and to resolve whatever the issue is, listening carefully to what it is that is of most concern to them. We'll counsel them how and where to proceed to hopefully resolve and be happy with their outcome. And hopefully that's a positive one. As we say here on the hilltop, home of the hawks, it's time to let them spread their wings and learn to fly. It's important to keep in mind that every single student's journey is not the same. The ideal role as a parent right now is to be a supportive guide, the encourager, and the listener. So what do I mean by that? Listen. Listen to what is said, but as importantly, listen to what is being left out. What is it they don't talk about? What things are you wondering because you don't hear a word? You listen and make note of what those are. When they come to you, empower them. Ask them what is it that they want to see? What needs to be different for them? And then for you to stay positive through the kinds of questions that you ask that involve the word might. How might you address that? Who might you go see? Those encouragers are ways to help them basically get in the mode of problem solving and empowering them to make change and to address issues. At the end of the day, when you don't know, when you get that call that they just away at something, and you're not sure which way this is going, a lot of times it's the simple question, which is, what do you need from me right now? Do you need me? Are you looking for advice from me? Are you looking to just unload and for me to be just empathetic and understand where you're at? Happy to do that. Or the latter. Are you seeking my direct help? And if it's seeking your direct help, those questions of where might you go, how might you move through this are helpful in making sure that they learn and continue to grow and resolve their pieces as young adults moving forward. And then if you need help yourself and you need to be talked off of the ledge, give us a call. We'll talk you down as well and try to help in any way we can to resolve whatever the issue might be, or to make sure we're cheering if something great has happened, and we want to reinforce that with you too.
Good. Now, regarding the way in which we communicate here at the college does have some drawbacks, Mom and Dad, that you need to consider. An important aspect of this collaborative messaging involves our legal obligations. Are you familiar with the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act? You may have heard this called FERPA. FERPA is a law that gives a student more control over who can access their records. FERPA was enacted in 1974 and was designed to accomplish three things. One was to protect the privacy of educational records from third parties and from those not designated as need to know. Now, I know there's parents out there going, wait a minute, I pay the bills, therefore I have a need to know. I would say to you, that's your opinion, but that's not the law. The student will determine through consent who has a need to know on their behalf. The second point made in the law is to establish the rights of a student to inspect and review those educational records. Again, they've got to give you consent in order to review those records. And the third point is to provide guidelines to correct inaccurate or misleading data found in those educational records. Mom and Dad, here's the bottom line. Students need to give consent to disclosures for each context of their educational record. To help in this endeavor, we have waivers to assist with consent. However, those waivers are not transferable, whether it be for academic or financial records. You'll need to have a waiver signed in each of those offices. And I know that Dean Finn, you probably want to comment about the disciplinary and medical non-emergency disclosures.
Sure. In the disciplinary aspects, it is not the case that we automatically call you or let you know. The student has to grant permission. And so when you have waivers, again, it's not transferable because you might have them in other arenas. It doesn't mean that you have it in the student conduct area, or that once one is given, that it is for every incident. So the student has to let us know that. Now, having said that, when there are issues of some significance, we will certainly ask the student to call you or to call from our office. But you don't have to worry as much about those things. Those are rare. But there are two other, in terms of HIPAA, as you know, you well know, as we have sat in doctors' offices, we can't know anything. It's in the hands of the individual. But in terms of FERPA, there are two significant exceptions, and they actually are related to conduct and to medical emergencies in our ability to reach out to you firsthand. So in matters that are related to their safety and significant well-being challenges and an urgency of a situation, our first priority is to get them to safety and to get them to some medical assistance. After that, we will reach out to you. So if an emergency is affecting a student's immediate safety, usually it's medical, but let's say it's a concussion, or some type of other accident. Once they are settled and safe, a call will be made out to you. The other is in FERPA, if there is a violation of the drug or alcohol policy, they do allow the college or institutions of higher ed to reach out to parents to notify them of that. So in those scenarios, most often you'll get a letter that there has been some concern raised, maybe it's an alcohol violation, and you will know generally what has happened, that they've been asked to go to an education class or something of that sort. If your son or daughter should be in a situation where their intake of alcohol is such that it has really challenged them and there is some medical emergency and we need to call for transport to the hospital, we will notify you. Our policy is if the ambulance wheels are rolling, we call. That call more often than not will come from the officer, the security officer who's on duty, that meeting that particular incident, and they'll make a call directly to you. On occasion, it has been a Goffstown police officer as well, but you will get a call regarding any transport needs to a hospital. So those are the exceptions, but as a general rule, your son or daughter has to give us permission to reach out and connect with you to provide information. So Drew, would you like to continue on?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you going to ask me to do the elephants in the room?
Well, I think what we'll do first is kind of set up what the elephants are, huh?
Sure.
Okay. This actually brings us to a point where, as parents, we want to collude with you. We want to partner with you around a couple of issues that are pretty critical in higher education, not only today, but have been, especially in the last decade or so. And what we'd like to do is that if we can connect with each other and get a similar kind of message going, we'll be able to kind of keep students on track, but keep them also healthy and safe. So I want to urge that you have some serious conversations at home around the next two topics that we want to talk to you about. And these are the proverbial, as Drew said, elephants in the room, as you see up there. And they have to do with sexual misconduct as well as alcohol and other drugs. But Drew, are you ready to speak about some of the substance issues?
Sure, absolutely. If we can go to the next slide, please. I always seem to get the elephant portion of this presentation. So let's talk about the first one. You know, in college, there's a whole issue around alcohol and marijuana and other drugs. And, you know, that's on a national level. And St. Anselm, to be honest, is no different than the other schools. We have issues with alcohol, we have issues with the marijuana, we have issues with drugs in general. And so this is why I say this is a conversation that has to start at home. I'll talk to you a little bit about our expectations, but I'll ask you talk with your son or daughter and lay out your expectations for them when they go off to college. Because the fact is, they don't come to college to learn to drink. They come to school to hone those skills. They've already learned them at home. So please take the time and have this frank conversation about your expectations. I can tell you that regardless what any student will say, the legal drinking in the state of New Hampshire is 21. Nothing different. The other piece that you should know, because I know many of the students are coming from different states, those different states have different marijuana laws. In New Hampshire, it is not legalized, right? It's being decriminalized, but is not legalized for use here. So if that's their choice at home, then it needs to stay at home, because here it is enforced. Both the alcohol and the drug pieces are enforced strictly. We practice what we consider to be a good neighbor policy, meaning we have longstanding tradition here in the town of Goffstown. We have a great working relationship, as Rob would attest, with the Goffstown Police and the Goffstown District Court. And so in terms of our messaging, you know, we're going to be very similar to what happens in the New Hampshire court system, particularly here in Goffstown. If a student is found in possession of alcohol here at the college, you know, they're going to be issued a fine, and they're going to be sent directed to an alcohol education workshop. The same would happen if they were summoned by the Goffstown police and went to court and were found guilty of the possession charge. Something you parents ought to know as well is sometimes Goffstown police are on our campus and they're welcome to be here, even though we're private. They do swing through, and there are times that students are issued summonses for possession of alcohol for underage drinking, and they are held accountable through the Goffstown District Court. They are also held accountable here at the college. So it's a double whammy. To avoid that, that's why I ask you have that conversation at home. It's imperative in terms of expectations, both the college and yours, about this alcohol issue. And there's a reason that we bring this stuff up. And that is that there's a connector, if you will, between alcohol misuse and our other elephant, sexual harassment, which includes sexual assault, the next conversation to be addressed. Dean Finn, would you comment on the conversation surrounding harassment and sexual misconduct, please?
Certainly, thank you. This topic calls us all, each one of us in the community, to live by a phrasing we've heard made popular or necessary earlier on for something else, and that is, see something, say something. We're calling for all members of the community to step up, because whether it's harassment, whether it's assault, whether, God forbid, it's an assault and a rape, we want to make sure, whatever we call it, that we're informing and teaching people how to intervene, how to get assistance for people, and where to go and who to alert if, God forbid, something happens. No matter what we call it, it's misconduct, it's unwanted contact. And we recognize that this is probably a hard topic. It's hard if it happens to anyone, male or female. And never mind that it might be happening or could happen to someone you love. When it comes to harassment and assaults, prevention is our primary concern. So during the August orientation, your son or daughter, your loved one, will be educated about some of the realities. What are some of the warning signs? How can I be a bystander intervener? How is it that I can intervene and make a difference to stop something? They're going to learn about consent and then the resources for support and reporting. Let me give you a context about why these efforts are so important. Some quick stats. 1 out of 5 students are sexually assaulted, some unwanted contact, between the ages of 18 and 24. But here's a piece about that. About 2/3, 67%, so 2/3, 2 out of 3 of those victims or those people who have received this unwanted contact, they will tell someone. They're going to tell a friend or a loved one. That's good news for us because in general, only about 10% of sexual assaults are actually reported. But yet go back to the other one. 2 out of 3 will tell someone. So the real point of intervention for us, or the real point of assistance for us, is to educate our community about what to do and where the different supports are for that individual. For us, we are absolutely here at the college blessed to have a particular office assigned for the topic, which is called the Harbor. We wrote several grants to underwrite that, and we've been renewed multiple times now by the government. And that allows it's a drop-in center for people to gain support, but it's also the seat of our education and our prevention efforts, where we are empowering students to come together to make sure that relationships on campus are healthy ones. So we need you to have some conversations at home to prevent sexual assault and sexual harassment. And this includes the conversation about the alcohol misuse and the impact that we don't make good decisions when we are in those conditions. We aren't as aware of our environment when we're in those states. There are programs that your son and daughter will be asked to participate in involving alcohol education, but there's also a secondary one about sexual assault or about intervention strategies. They will be participating. Some of the materials will be online and others will be live in August, as I've mentioned. They're going to find out what the legal definition of consent is. And I want to underscore that while we will spend a lot of time on consent, particularly in interventions and the types and ways that one has to say yes or be clear and truly affirmative of what is permissible, it does not mean that the college is particularly endorsing or promoting any advanced sexual intimacies between folks. We want to just be sure that people know what consent means and that it has to be absolutely, undeniably clear that it is a yes. So for example, silence isn't consent. As I mentioned, being under the influence, consent isn't happening. A lack of struggle doesn't imply consent. It is only the affirmative spoken yes. So all students will be receiving information in different formats, including some of the confidential resources that are available and some of the tips. Those confidential resources are both on campus as well as off campus. We do find that some students prefer to go off rather than here. Now, the good news about all these difficult conversations is that students are reporting incidents to us, and they are going to the harbor. They are seeking the assistance, and they are getting involved to stop and prevent. And this means it's working. Friends are bringing friends. Friends are suggesting friends get involved to make a difference. And that's happening time and time again. Why, in fact, we've had some folks go down to the harbor to talk about healthy relationships and get some dating advice. So we know we've connected on a very different level. We can only applaud Amanda Casali, who is the director down in that office. So please have the conversations at home about alcohol. Please have the conversations about being alert about one's community, about respect for each other and intervening in a healthy way should something seem to be going awry. And together you join us in making sure that we maintain this Christian community of respect that has been created here at the college. I'm going to toss it over to Dean Litz again.
Okay, well, thank you. Again, Mom and Dad, you can be strong motivators in empowering students to understand the importance of taking responsibility for their actions. And speaking of responsibility, please, let's hear a little bit from Rob Brown, the Director of Campus Safety and Security.
Thank you, Drew. A little bit about safety and security. We are constantly present on campus on a 24/7, 365 basis, oftentimes with multiple units covering our 400-acre campus. And I say 400 acres because it is a pretty vast campus, but primarily there's about 80 acres, which are the primary buildings and where most of our folks are. But you should know as parents where your adult son and daughters are as far as jurisdiction goes. So even though St. Anselm has a Manchester mailing address, it actually resides in 3 separate jurisdictions. About 98% of the college property is in the town of Goffstown, as you've heard several of our speakers talk about Goffstown Police. So 98% of where your adult son or daughter will be is in Goffstown. There's a small section of the town of Bedford. Some of our athletic fields and some of our larger parking areas are in the town of Bedford, and there's a really small section in the city of Manchester. But by and large, most of what your students are going to be on is in the town of Goffstown. Now, one of the main problems that we have on campus is parking. We only have about 1,900 spaces on campus, and we have 2,000 students, roughly 700 faculty and staff, as well as many visitors on campus for many different sporting events or weddings or other college sponsored events. The campus being relatively small, it's very, very walkable. We encourage you to have your freshmen leave their cars at home if at all possible. There really is no need for any vehicular mobility to get around campus. It is, like I said, very walkable. And as Dean Finn mentioned earlier, you got to please remember that your adult students are responsible for the decisions that they make when operating their vehicles on campus and parking, both how and where they do so. They alone are accountable for their actions on how they operate their vehicles. And I say this because oftentimes our office will receive phone calls from parents on behalf of their student, and we encourage students to reach out to us directly. We may be able to make an accommodation for them for a citation that may be issued, but it's also very case dependent. And I also say this, that sometimes parents don't always get the full story. And sometimes it's prudent to be able to ask some furthering investigative questions from them as to why it was that they maybe had gotten a parking ticket. So on or about August 1st, students will receive an email from our office on instructions on how to get a parking permit. They are required to have a permit to be able to park a vehicle on campus. There are no spaces other than the visitor lot where visitors can come and park. So if your student has a car on campus, they are going to need to obtain a permit. Also in this email, they're going to learn about signing up for emergency notifications on our campus proper. So St. Anselm College uses SAC alerts for its emergency text messaging service that works in concert with our outdoor siren and public address system. We would use this in case of any imminent safety event on campus. The system helps us reach out to members of our community should the need arise. It assists the department to provide information about a threat, how to proceed during the threat, and when the emergency is actually ended. It is further used for notifications for weather-related closings, any early closings, or any delays that the campus might have. Each of the accounts have the availability to have 2 devices on, so we'd encourage both your student and a family member at home to be able to sign up so they too could receive the alerts that their student would have. Regarding fire safety on campus, the Goffstown Fire Department is very active on campus, both from a prevention aspect as well as from alarms that may get triggered. As you can imagine, with 62 buildings on campus, there is a false alarm or 2, but they take all alarms and all fire incidents on campus very seriously. So it's important for our students not to dismiss a drill or a false alarm as being something that's insignificant. Also mentioned the cooperation with the Goffstown Police Department. You should know that nearly 1/3 of all the Goffstown Police Department officers are alumni from St. Anselm. They feel that this hilltop is their home as well. So they take great pride in making sure that the campus is safe, that students are having the experience that they had when they were here. So they're actually trying to make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to do so that everybody can remain as safe as possible. The relationship that this college has with its first responders, both from police and fire, and as well from all surrounding jurisdictions, is very healthy. And it's important, as I mentioned, to have that for the safety here on the hilltop. That's all I have, Drew.
Can we advance to the next slide, please? And yes, finally, when all else fails in terms of this communication, you can rely on the old saying, no news is good news. At least that's what happened in my family. My mother had to live with it. And when she dropped me off in August, she said, I'll pick you up in November. So I called her about midway October to say, don't forget, you're going to come get me. But this is the date. This is the goal that we all have, graduation in 4 years. So put it in your calendar books and cross your fingers as we as parents all do. With that said, I guess we're going to open it up to questions at this time.
So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A for any of our speakers this evening. Give a minute to see if any pop in there. If you do have questions, but would rather reach out, you can always send your questions to the Dean of Students at anselm.edu as well. and would be happy to either forward on your question to the appropriate area or we'll answer it ourselves. Just give a little bit more time to see if any questions pop up this evening. I think Dean Finn and Rob oh, here we go. See, just give it a little bit of time. Oh, it's not even a question. It's just a good job, everybody. So thank you very much. So I think if there are no questions, we will say farewell for now. And as a reminder, we are here to help your student and you as well. But as a reminder, tonight's session is being recorded and will be available within 72 hours of this session on the college website under the new student orientation page. Let me see, let me check one more time. We have no questions. So I want to thank Dr. Finn and Rob and Drew for your presentation this evening. And I want to thank all of you who joined us. And I wish you all a good evening.